Hi everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk Money 2020. A lot has transpired over the last week, and I'm going to really fill you in on all the updates, and then we're going to talk about a few things, kind of piggyback on what we talked about last week. I'm going to go a little bit deeper on some certain things. But again, my intention is not really to be textbook, is not really to really repeat things that other people have said. I'm giving you real life experiences, real life truths when it comes to business, being an employee, empowering your community. I want to talk about the real life things. So let's get started. All right. So let me give you some updates first on the PPP program. There's a new law, new changes now as far as the PPP is concerned. You remember before you had to take 8 weeks to actually spend the PPP money. But now that's been extended to 24 months. I'm sorry, 24 weeks. Remember, before the real situation was they were giving businesses this money, but a lot of the country was still under curfew, and you had 8 weeks to actually use that money on payroll and other business-related expenses. Well, if you're in the middle of a pandemic, business is not there, people are not coming to your business. You don't necessarily have the doors open, and it's not normal. So what Congress went back and did and was okay, instead of 8 weeks to actually spend this money, now you have 24 weeks. So I think 24 weeks is a good amount of time to actually spend this money. If you can't really spend the money in 24 weeks, then there are some other options for you as well. You can just let it become a loan. It'd be a 1% loan. That's still in the books. So the second thing, which I think is a big change, is instead of requiring that you had to have spent 75% of the money on payroll, now you only have to spend 60% on payroll. So some of the bigger problems that they had with this was, what about rents? What about normal operating expenses that weren't payroll that some people needed to spend? I mean, you might not have been in a payroll intensive environment, but now the doors kind of open up to more expenses. So you just have to make sure that you spend 60% of the money, the PPP money that you got. 60% has to be spent on payroll. And when I say payroll, I mean real payroll wages. I mean, these people are going to get a W-2. They got withholding taken out. You pay unemployment taxes, not for independent contractors. I have to make that distinction. So if you got independent contractors that you would like to start paying through payroll, now is the time to do it, because the government is actually giving you money to actually pay those employees. Now, there are some things you got to be aware of. They're going to compare where your payroll spend before you got the PPP money to where you are after you got the PPP money. So you want to match at least the money that you got, the money that you were actually paying out before you got the PPP money. So in order for it to be forgiven. So I think there's still some little minor details in the law, but for the most part, as long as you spend 60% of that PPP money on payroll, I think you're going to be good. Here's another change that was made. You heard me talk about this on other videos. There was a provision where if you did not get the PPP money, you could actually elect to take 2 years to actually pay your payroll taxes. And this is going to be big if you got a lot of employees, because as we all know as business owners, payroll taxes are pretty hefty, right? So if you could delay those payroll taxes, usually you pay them per quarter, right? So if you could delay paying them out, a year, 2 years, then that helps you out as far as cash flow, right? But you do want to pay it at some point. You don't want to wait till the 2 years is up and you still haven't paid those payroll taxes. But now you could take now here's what I'm not too clear on, but I know there's been delays as far as when you can actually pay those taxes. Beforehand, you could take up to 2 years and pay those taxes. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% confident that you can still take up to the 2 years. But the difference now is you can get the PPP money, and you can actually defer your payroll taxes at the same time. That was not the case before. Before you had to elect, you had to say, okay, I'm going to forego the PPP money. I'm not going to participate in the PPP program, but I'm going to actually defer my payroll taxes. Now you can do both. So that's a tremendous value. So those are the things that have really transpired over the last week as far as the changes with the PPP. Again, I think these changes are really great changes. The one change that I wish that they would go on and make is making the portion that you actually get forgiven, make that payroll tax deductible. So what I mean is, if you had, say, $20,000 of PPP money and you got it all forgiven, that $20,000, you can't actually put those wages on your tax return. And most people are really not thinking that far out. So basically, you're going to lose the deduction, and your taxes are going to be higher. So in the future, we'll do some broadcasts where we'll kind of do the math, and we'll show you how you're missing out on that tax deduction. Okay, so let's move forward. I'm going to kind of go back to the topic that we talked about last week and kind of give you a different perspective when it comes to surviving the game. And let me give you a little background just in case you haven't seen the prior videos. I talk so much about starting your own business, and like I said before, starting your own business is really just not for everybody. Everybody can't just go out there and just create a business and forget what they're doing as an employee and basically just run their own business. There are a lot of challenges, a lot of risks. And you might be better off just staying as an employee. There's nothing wrong with staying as an employee. I have employees. I try to make my employees happy, but the reality is some people, they want to stay as employees, some people don't. But the vast majority of folks are employees, right? So when we start talking about everybody should just start, they leave their jobs and become employers. That's not necessarily the right message to send either. Some people, it might be better for you to stay as an employee. You might be able to, I guess, influence more people as an employee, as opposed to actually starting a business and struggling to actually get some type of dominance in the marketplace. You might be able to dominate where you are as an employee. So we're going to talk more about the employee side. And then we'll talk about some other topics at the end here. But I thought I'd go back and clear up a few things and really touch on some points I didn't have time to really talk about last time. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is selling, because you do have to sell as an employee. You're going to have to sell your ideas. You're going to have to actually sell certain projects that you're going to be on. You might have it your way, but you're going to have to really sell and win people over as far as your ideas. That doesn't change whether you're an employee, whether you're an employer. If you're an employer, you're always going to be selling your products and services. That's the number one law of the game of being in business, is actually being able to sell. If you can't sell, if you refuse to sell, there's no sense to open up the doors to be a business, right? So as an employee, the same thing. The higher the wages are, you'll find that those wages are tied to some sales type cycle in some way. So negotiation as an employee is another thing. We have to change the way we actually see our relationship with our employers. It's not a thing where you shouldn't be in a situation where you just show up to work, you get a paycheck, and you go home. There's some negotiation that goes on there as well. As far as when you start, what you're going to be doing, the type of projects you'll be working on. There is a contract, a unwritten contract that should go on, and it should be basically it should go like this. If I do these things, this is what I'm guaranteed to receive. And I don't necessarily mean monetary value all the time. It could mean a promotion. It could mean more responsibility. It could be more visibility. But you have to make those decisions for yourself. But if you're in an employee relationship and you don't necessarily, you haven't negotiated where you are, let's face it, you're just there, right? So I want to talk probably next week more about the negotiation process. And there is a negotiation process. There should be a negotiation process. So we'll talk about that next time. But I want to talk more about the selling. As an employee and as an employer, your object is to sell, right? Now you might not be in a position where you're actually selling, but you're going to be selling something. Your ideas. You're going to be selling something as an employee. And don't forget that you are a salesperson. You are trying to win people over. This is about sales. You are trying to provide some type of value to the business, to your customers. You are always trying to provide that value, and to learn how to sell that value and to sell it efficiently, and being able to understand how the company makes money, how to sell more for the company, how to get more wins for the company, ultimately means more wins for you. So I'm just trying to really explain these things, because these are things that I learned later in my career when I was actually an employee. And actually my employees now, the ones that I value the most are the ones that understand the sales cycle. You can always find somebody that's very technically proficient. You can always find those type of people. But to find people that help you in the sales cycle, to help you bring in more money, is much more invaluable. You ask any employer, I don't care what kind of industry that they're in, if you have an employee that can help you sell, can help you with your image to sell, to help you with bringing in more money, or showing you another way, another vision, another product, another service, those are the most valuable employees. The guy who just shows up and he just shows up for the paycheck, everybody knows who you are, right? And they know the relationship, and they know basically how to control that relationship. But to sell is a transferable skill. It's a skill that you can use on this job, another job, your own business, or whatever. But you're going to have to learn how to sell. It took me a long time to realize this, right? I was in my business just working hard and just providing valuable services to clients. But to sell is a whole different gamut. When I say to sell, there's other techniques involved in selling. There's the after sales. There's expanding markets. There's dominating markets. There's so much to learn about the sales cycle. And as far as small business is concerned, most of them go out of business because they're not selling products at prices high enough, at quantities high enough to sustain themselves. So there's no such thing as like the natural born salesman. No, the people just have good sales techniques. So as an employee, it would be to your benefit to spend a little money, spend a little time, spend a little bit of your resources to actually learn how to sell. You will not go wrong with this. Even if you're not in a sales position, you will not go wrong with learning how to sell. And then if you can master that ability, then I think you should think about, maybe starting your own, going out there on your own. Because once you get on your own, you're responsible for basically eating what you kill. So you have to understand this as an employee first. How do I make this company sell more? How do I contribute to the top line? How do I contribute to the bottom line? So these are the things that you have to really think about as far as being a valuable employee and moving up that chain, moving up the employee ladder. So, I often think about some of the black inventors. We invented so many different things, and what I've done was I looked at an exhaustive list, and it's a huge list, but I wrote down some of the things here, like air conditioning unit, blood plasma bag, a stove, a traffic light, typewriters, lawnmowers. I mean, these things are really invented by black inventors, right? So the difference is, okay, well, why didn't these guys become well known? Why didn't these guys become industry leaders? They were the inventors. You'll find that in a lot of cases, the inventors don't really understand the sales cycle. So you can have a great product, a great service, but if you don't master selling that service, then you're not going to dominate that market. You're not going to be the person that really benefits from a monetary standpoint. Everybody else will take your ideas, steal your ideas, and capitalize off of your ideas. And that's what I think really, that's part of the thing that happened to black inventors. You know, we always invent things, right? I even hear the skateboard was invented by black folks. But if we don't understand what it takes to actually take that product from a concept to a prototype to a market solution, then we won't benefit. We won't see the rewards of all our labor. So to sell and learn how to dominate the market is something that now we have to come into fruition of these type of principles. Like I said before, we're always inventing things. We always have great ideas, right? But who is going to actually understand how do you get this to the market? How do you get this to the mass market? If you look at, you know, your great billionaires that are out there today, you'll see that they've mastered what it takes to actually sell. So, you know, I've talked about this on several broadcasts before, but I am so serious about this. This is the number one principle. If you're an employee, if you are an employer, you gotta master selling. And like I said before, you know, some people are really really shy away from selling the sales techniques. But I'm telling you, if there's anything that's going to benefit your life as an employee, if there's anything that's going to benefit your life as an employer, it is the sales cycle. And then there's certain, and you know, I'm using that word very loosely, but there are so many techniques that you could learn that it becomes natural to you. You begin to naturally get more wins. You become naturally at winning people over. You become naturally at understanding, okay, if I were to sell X widgets, right, it brings me a benefit, a monetary benefit of Y, for example. So I can't underestimate the ability to actually sell. And like I said before, there's all kinds of training you can go to. There's leadership training, sales training, negotiating, winning over people. But there's all kinds of different things in the marketplaces you could go to and actually learn how to sell. You can even start with YouTube. You can go to YouTube, and there's some great people out there that talk about sales, your Grant Cardones and so forth. You know, if I were you, I would take as much time as you possibly can and just learn that sales cycle. But these are the unspoken rules when it comes to being an employee. No one actually stops and tells you and say, look, this is how you sell. This is something that you're going to have to pick up. This is something you're going to have to try. It's like walking. You're going to have to just try it, and really get rid of the fear and just try it. One thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to really focus on my business on just purely sales, purely understanding what does it take for everybody in the organization to just sell, right? And then we're going to see where we end up, and I'll update you where we are. But I like to listen to great people, and they start to understand and really tell you what it takes to sell. So I'm going to share some of those things as we go on. Okay, so the main thing is, you know, when I'm actually trying to sell, or one thing that I've learned is you got to focus on what you can do for the client. Not necessarily, I have to win this, I have to win this. You have to understand and really depart to the person that's going to buy your products or service, how your business really will benefit them, how your services will benefit them. I focus on that particular topic, and that's it. If they give me pushback or whatever, I start to think, well, how can I benefit this person? I know my service is what they need. I have to be able to communicate that to them, and I have to get them to understand what if they only had my service, if they only could experience what we have to offer, they will be happy. So I try to focus on that. And as an employee, you have to do the same. You have to do the same. You have to think about, well, how can I benefit my employer? How can I benefit my customer? That's got to be central central in your line of thinking. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. Like I said before, we're going to talk about negotiating as an employee, the things, the techniques that you should really deploy when it comes to negotiating as an employee when you're first hired, as you go through your employment progress. We're going to talk about some of those things next week. I really don't have time to really get into those things because those things are it's just so much that you can learn, or that I've learned actually, as far as negotiating as an employee. So right now we're going to take a break, and we'll come back. And when we come back, I'm going to talk about some of the things I kind of led on to last week, as far as my opinion of what's happening, as far as what's happening in the country, as far as the rioting and so forth. And some of the things that I think that we should be doing, or I know that I'm going to be doing, to really move forward. Because there are some things, that we have to really become better at, and becoming better community leaders, being able to impact the communities where we are. These things are really paramount to us really moving forward. So we're going to take a break. And we'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll discuss some of those things. Hi, I'm Troy Emery. Here at TD Emery & Associates, we offer a wide variety of business tax services for small and large companies, including corporations and partnerships, nonprofits, and real estate taxation. Also, we offer audits, compilations, and reviews.
Let our knowledgeable staff at TD Emery & Associates help you optimize your tax benefits today. Dependable, accurate, trustworthy. TD Emery & Associates. Dependable, accurate, trustworthy. TD Emery & Associates.
What is this? The IRS?
We know that your tax preparation requires more than just the basics.
Hi, I'm Troy Emery, and I've spent my entire professional career helping taxpayers in a variety of tax issues. Let us show you how to confront and solve tax issues with every viable option under the law.
Call the tax team at TD Emery & Associates now.
Okay, we're back. All right, so as promised, we're going to talk about really how we can impact our own communities, because I think right now we're seeing what's happening as far as rioting and all kinds of stuff that's happening right now. I think we need to really take a more active role in our communities. And when I say we, I'm definitely looking at myself. I'm making a promise to myself that I am going to volunteer, give back, try to strengthen the community where I am. Because when I look at what's happening as far as police brutality and some of the racial discrimination things, I think we can fix a lot of these problems if we become more actively involved. I don't mean necessarily to just voting for somebody. I don't think that's good enough, that we just cast our vote. This is my opinion. I don't think that's good enough for us to just cast our vote and just wait for someone else to actually fix things for us. I don't think that's where we're going to see the real impact. When I look at these young people out here protesting, I see that they're doing something actively. Yeah, you might not agree with everything that they're doing, but they are taking matters in their own hands. They're not casting a vote and waiting on someone to give them justice or give them what they want. They're taking an active role. So, I was looking at this and I said, wow, this is more powerful than all the voting. This is more powerful than all the watching the news and seeing what law has been passed. These are young people that are taking their life in their own hands. These are people that won't accept no for an answer. They will not accept the old way of doing things. They want to make changes, and they want to make changes now. So I started to look at myself and I said, wait a minute, I have to be more active. I have to be better. I have to understand what's going on in my community. I have to understand that my business, my resources, the people I hang out with, we have to understand that we control our destiny. We control our communities so that we can elect whoever we want in our communities. we can actually determine who are the policemen in our districts, who actually does anything in our environment. We control that. So that's what I learned from seeing what's happening now in the streets. I think it's a great thing. Like any other thing, there's some bad elements like any other thing. There's some positive and there's a lot of positive and there's some negativity, but the overall goal is of something positive to come out of this. So let me show you some of the things that I was talking to a lawyer friend on the phone, and I was asking him, I was like, hey, tell me, what can I do? What can I do to actually help me understand my community, be a part of my community, and make an impact in my community? And he was saying that basically you're going to have to figure out, how many hours you want to put into this. And I don't mind, putting the sweat equity and doing whatever I have to do. But he was saying that hey, look, determine how many hours you want to put into this. Volunteer wherever you could, even if you got to volunteer at schools, even if you got to volunteer helping out your senator, your congressperson. Just volunteer more. And I'm gonna take these things to heart, and I'm gonna follow these things that he told me. Now he said something. He says set up an appointment with my leaders, my county executive, my governor, whatever it is. Set up a meeting with them and just ask them, how can I help? How can I make where I am better? I happen to live in Prince George's County, right here in Maryland, and I love Prince George's County. This is one of the greatest counties that I've ever lived in, and I'm really proud to really be here. So I have to take the next step and figure out who are the people, who are the leaders, ask them how I can help. This is something I'm going to make a commitment to myself after I've seen what I've seen over the last 2 weeks on the news and whatnot. I'm going to make this kind of commitment, and I'm going to donate to the programs that are near and dear to me. Student education, just incarcerate, changing the laws when it comes to people getting incarcerated. I'm going to do whatever I can to actually donate my time, my resources to make these things happen. These things are near and dear to me. So these are some of the things that I am committed to do. So if you can think of some things that really I don't have the solutions to. I don't pretend to know everything. I just don't know the solutions. But if you know some things that I can volunteer or my company can actually help out, send us an email or call us and just say, hey, look, I think you should do this. I think you should do that. I'm definitely open to any suggestions to how we can become stronger as a community, how we can become more cohesive, and how we can solve the problems in our communities and not necessarily wait on somebody else to come and help us, because we've been waiting too long. It's time for us to just, each and every one of us, how insignificant we are, to just do something. And if we all do something, we can make our communities a lot stronger, much more vibrant. But anyway, that's my talk for this week. I'll be back next week to give you more updates. We'll drill down. We'll drill in even deeper into negotiating as an employee. We'll bring back some of the business talks that we had before. But until that time, stay healthy. God bless. Take care.